All right, I'm going to do a quick video before I get to the next video that I'm doing about Samantha. And I had mentioned that maybe it would be about Robert Wagner, but I wanted to go back to the time period between when she wrote the letter and when she received the response from Andropov. So that's kind of what I'm preparing for the next video. And I just wanted to do this quickly because there was a trend that I noticed when I was going through my sources for this and looking and researching through what I have to explain what that time period. I noticed that the books that were written by some of these people, like the presidents and the ambassadors, things like that, they did not mention Samantha in their books, and it was really shocking to me that there was not even a mention of what happened, and there must be a reason for that. I'm not sure, but what I'm talking about, when I looked at the Soviet ambassador to the U.S. and the U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union, Arthur Hartman and Anatoly Dobrynin, in I couldn't find a biography on Arthur Hartman. I don't know if there's one out there, and if people do know about one, just leave it in the comments. Let me know about that. But any correspondence, interviews, things like that I saw with Arthur Hartman, there was never any mention of Samantha. In Dobrynin's biography, which I would have absolutely thought there'd be something about Samantha in there, because she wrote to him at the Soviet embassy in the U.S. after she saw her letter printed in the Pravda to ask why there had not been a response. She wrote directly to him, and that's when she got the response from Andropov. And I thought he had to have written about this experience, at least, at the very least. But there was not a mention about Samantha in Dobrynin's book. There also was no mention of Samantha that I could find in George Schultz's book, Secretary of State. Nothing, obviously, that from Ronald Reagan or Gorbachev in any books that I could find. I know I've seen interviews where Gorbachev has mentioned Samantha when being asked about her, but it's just an interesting trend that these top players, we're talking about Reagan, Gorbachev, Schulz, Dobrynin, Hartman, like all these people, nobody mentioned Samantha in their books. And so most of what I'm going with are sources from other interviews, things like that I could find, articles of that nature. And where I did see where Samantha would be mentioned in books, it was usually with regards to the peace movement, and that's where she would be mentioned. Citizen diplomats, and there's a couple of biographies written about her. Or from the other side, you'd see how Mona Charen's book and things like that. But these top players, there's nothing written about Samantha. And then, at the Geneva summit, obviously there was no mention of Samantha at that point either, and that was a huge breakthrough with all of this between Gorbachev and Reagan after her death. And in the FBI files, there was actually a person who thought they had a picture of Samantha with Andropov, which is hard to believe. I don't believe that, but he wanted to crash the summit in Geneva with this photo. But they didn't. There was nothing said about Samantha and the role she played in breaking down the Soviet Union and the Cold War in general. And I think that's a very strange thing, in my opinion. And you have to ask yourself why nobody mentioned her. Yet they were concerned about the accusations of foul play, things like that. They were monitoring that in the CIA documents, like I've talked about in previous videos. And it's just odd to me that given these foul play accusations, and they didn't mention Samantha, any of this, and then nobody from the peace movement, no journalists, things like that, ever questioned whether the crash was suspicious. And I would have thought that somebody on that side of things, on that side of the fence, on the left, would absolutely have wanted to look into the nature of these accusations that were coming out, and nobody from the left, the peace groups, none of that, nobody looked into it. And it really is something that should have been looked into when it happened, back when those accusations were coming out. And they basically just took the NTSB's word for it, and that was a Reagan placed guy, James Burnett, These people on the left didn't even question it. So, and then they didn't even talk about them in their books. I mean, some of the peace groups did, and I'll go into more about them in the next video when I talk. But anyway, I'm going on here rambling. But I just wanted to say quickly that I thought that that was a very strange thing. If anybody can find things written about Samantha in these people's biographies, autobiographies, wherever, I'd be more than happy to see those sources. But from what I could see in their main biographies, things like that, no mention of Samantha. But anyway, all right, I'll get to that video shortly. I actually wanted to do a quick video that I'm going to do based on Paul McCartney, and I think I'm going to do something with that. There was a debate I got into with somebody in a Facebook group, and I wanted to reply to that and do a video on some interesting things that I found, and you would think that it wouldn't connect with Samantha, but there, all of this stuff connects in one way or another. It really does, and I don't think you can ever get off the topic of this, the subject at this point with any direction you go with. But anyway, I'm gonna probably do a Paul McCartney video next, and then I'll get back to the Samantha stuff. All right, thanks for listening. All right, bye.